All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Cool. Okay, so let's talk about column level lineage this morning. My name is Benoit. I'm a senior resident architect at dbt Labs. I've been at dbt Labs since January 2022, so a bit more than 2.5 years. I'll give a quick, longer intro about me because it will matter for this talk. So I live in Madrid in Spain, but as you might have noticed, I am French. I work with some of the biggest dbt cloud customers we have, let's say, at dbt Labs. So some of the customers I work with, they have hundreds, and some of them even thousands of projects. So I spend a lot of time thinking about how do we scale dbt? How do we make dbt more used in a company? How do we make more people being working with dbt? So this is a lot of what I do in my day-to-day. How do we scale dbt? On the side, I am a big geek, and I enjoy building tools. So you might know some of those, but I am one of the maintainers of the dbt project evaluator package. We'll talk about it today. I also maintain some tools like dbt jobs as code, which is a way to maintain your dbt cloud jobs in some YAML code, so and version control them. And I'm also the maintainer of the dbt cloud Terraform provider, which I think quite a few of you might be using already. So the agenda today, a few points to go through this morning. We're going to talk about what scaling means in dbt. Last year, I gave a talk on Terraform, so about scaling like many different dbt projects. This year, it is going to be a bit different. It's going to be more like scaling, let's say, within one project. We'll talk about what are the different tools and techniques we have today that help us with scaling. Then, I think you're here today because of the column level lineage topic, so we'll talk about that finally. And for the people who might have read the entire description of this talk, I will be presenting you a new open source tool that I just created recently that leverages the column level lineage to bring more feature and hopefully making it easier to scale our project with the column level lineage. I didn't mention it, but when I talk about CLL in the talk, it's going to be column level lineage. We don't have enough acronyms, so one more is good as well. I'll do a quick demo of the tool, and finally, I would have some call to action for everyone here, and maybe some next step to go from there. All right, so as I mentioned, let's talk about scaling. What I love about dbt is that you can make it work at any scale. You can have like a data team of one person, and they can have their dbt project with like a few models. They can just learn the source, the ref, and it works. And it is great to see dbt working with a small scale. Now that many companies, like thousands of them, use dbt, and some of the largest companies in the world, we also have now some really large-scale dbt deployments. And what does it mean is that when we scale dbt, it means we can have like sometimes many different dbt projects. So as I said, some customers that I work with have hundreds or even thousands of them. And we have like this mesh approach where we can now not work like in silos, but have each dbt project being able to reference other ones. There is also like the scaling of the number of models. So I think you might have seen this graph that has been shown quite a few times where, I don't remember the percentage, but we have quite a few dbt projects in the world which have more than 5,000 models. And when we scale also with this number of models, we get some problematic that we don't have with JaffelShop. We don't have like this problematic with just 20 or 50 models. We don't work the same way in dbt with 50 models that we do with 1,000 models. So what I'm going to talk about today is kind of the contrast sometimes between what works well at small scale versus is more difficult at larger scale, and what are the tools and options we have to make it easier. So usually, like one of the first things to scale is that everybody knows that dbt is the tool for transformation that follows the software best practices. So we have version control. We can have CI/CD. So we have a lot of materials at dbt Labs around also the guidelines on how you should build your model, how you should put them in different folders, et cetera. So we have like best practices. The way to scale also is to use like standards in your organization. So how many models do you want to test? Do you want to test all of them? Just maybe the marks? Do you want to add documentation to every column or not? So we can decide what are the guidelines for our transformation, and then using the code promotion process, using CI/CD, we can automate these things. And this is like really one of the focus also of today, like how can we scale, how can we enforce some of those rules at scale? And again, with 1,000 models, it is not the same as with 20. So to start, let's talk about a random company. I don't know, JaffelShop, for example. So JaffelShop, it's Jane and Joe. They are working in their JaffelShop, though they just sell Jaffel. but they like dbt, and they actually want to track their sales with dbt. So they have like a few models here and there. So we can see, like, you most likely can't see, but there is like some orders, some supplies, and they have this little DAG. They want to follow the best practices, but it's relatively easy. So, for example, Jane creates some code, and Joe will review it. Okay, yes, we put the staging model, and it's fine. There is no, we don't break our guidelines. The thing is, one day, Jaffle Shop become viral. Like somebody does a TikTok, and now everybody wants to buy Jaffle Shop. They want their Jaffles. Like somebody said, like, it's the best Jaffle I've had, even better than my mom's. So everybody wants the Jaffle. So what they do, of course, is they ride the wave. They buy some warehouses, they start some store, they get an IT team, they put SAP, Salesforce, everything. So from one day to another, they become like Jane and Joe to like 20,000 people. And they still want to continue with using dbt, but now it's like they need to get this data from Salesforce, from SAP, from all their different systems. And when we look at the DAG, like now, John can't review Jane's PR. Like this is like a sample of one DAG. It is a real example. What is written in small here is that there is like 2,738 nodes. We can't review it by hand. Like there is no way somebody can review this and be like, oh yeah, it's following every single one of our guidelines. I'm completely sure, and I can sign on it. So we can't do that. And this is also like where dbt shines, is that even though we can't do it manually, we have tools and we have techniques today that allow us to actually manage this scale. So some of the examples is that what I love about dbt also is the community, the ecosystem around it. It's not just like a single piece of software. It is like a group of tools and techniques. In the ecosystem, like people love using additional tools with dbt. For example, here, SQLFluff. SQLFluff is not just used with dbt, but it is very popular within let's say, the dbt practitioners, which is a tool that allows you to lint and make sure your SQL looks similar and is following like the guidelines you want. Some other tools we have is dbt checkpoint. So this is a tool created and maintained by the community where you can verify that some rules are followed in your dbt project even before you commit it in your repo. And the last one that I mentioned, and that I particularly like because I'm maintaining it, is dbt project evaluator. So this is a package where we have different rules, and we can make sure that those rules are enforced in our dbt project. And the way it works is on the right here, you can see like some of the rules that we have created in dbt project evaluator. So we have some rules around modeling. So here the first one, if I read it out loud, is staging model. We don't have any staging model dependent on other staging models. So according to our guidelines, you have like your sources, your staging, your intermediate, et cetera, et cetera. This package can check that you don't have staging models that depend on other staging models, which would be like breaking our guidelines. Today, in dbt project evaluator, we have 28 of those rules. So here, this is just a small screenshot. We have like a whole website that describes all of them, how to use them. So first call out is if you don't use dbt project evaluator, I would highly recommend using it. And what I like also about dbt project evaluator is that there is, I think right now, 41 contributors to this project. We have a few people from dbt labs, but also many people from the community. A lot of the newer rules that we have been implementing in the tool come from the community. I really enjoy this, the fact that this is really like, I think, both a dbt labs and community-driven package. And another thing that I like about Project Evaluator is that when we saw that people really liked it, we saw like there are a few hundred stars now on GitHub, then the team put the effort to put it in dbt Explorer as well. So we don't have to configure it anymore. We don't have to install the package. We don't have to even read the documentation that we created. You just get it out of the box in dbt Explorer. And this is because like there was some emulation in the community about the package. There were people saying that there is this package, and I want it in dbt Cloud, and then the team brought it there. So I really like this story about Project Evaluator itself. Now that we talked about Project Evaluator, we talked about scaling a bit, let's talk now really about column level lineage. It's, I don't know how many minutes already, and we've not even started talking about it. This is a screenshot on the left about what column level lineage looks like in dbt Explorer. This is like a newer feature. I don't know how many months it's been released now. But it is a way to see no longer at the model level, but at the column level, what is the dependency in your data. So here, we can see that is drink item is a column in different models, And then isDrink item is the column being used, for example, in the model orders to count the drink items. So we have this really quick view of what column level lineage is, and we can really see it gives us quite a lot of insights. Another great thing that we have in dbt Cloud and dbt Explorer with column level lineage is that if you don't document some downstream column, if the column is just a pass-through, which means like just a select, we can show you the description from the upstream column in Explorer. You don't have to put the description yourself. It will show up. So this is like a great way to get more insights. And some of the use cases we have around column level lineage is that we can do some root cause analysis. So if you have a dashboard, or let's say a table where you realize that this column, it doesn't look correct. Like there is like a percentage which is more than 100, or there is like something that you're not expecting to be that low or that high. With column level lineage, you can really go to the lineage of your columns and figure out which part of my DAG is where I am doing the transformation. And likely in the maybe 10, 15, 20 models it takes from the source to the end, you don't do transformation in 20 of them. You might do it in just a few models, or even you'll be able to figure out which which columns from your sources are being used for this final column. So you'll have a great way to figure out where the issue might be in the transformation without having to look at every model one by one. Another one, which is like looking at the DAG, not really towards the left, but more towards the right, is that if I am in a model and I want to, let's say, change a column because I want to add a different logic, or I want to add more like case when in my model, with column level lineage, I can directly see which are the downstream columns that will be impacted. We always were able to do that at the model level, but at the column level, it's very, very useful as well, because you will be able to see, are there like some fact or dimension tables that might be impacted by my change? And I just want to make sure that those are very well tested, and I don't want to break them with the change I'm doing. And the last one, the last use case for column level lineage is something that I use quite a lot myself. Like at dbt Labs, we use dbt as well. I'm not the person who contributes the most to our project, but when I do, using column level lineage, it gives me really a great way to just jump directly into a model. If there is a column that I am interested in because I want maybe to change it a bit, or I want to reuse some of it, I can directly see with column level lineage which sources the data comes from, and I can see where it is transformed. It is really, really helping me and saving me hours every time I need to jump into something which I'm maybe not too familiar with. Oops. But what I wanted to say with column level lineage is that a bit similar with what we had with dbt Project Explorer, this is like a simple Jeffel shop pre-IPO column level lineage. So they just had like drinks and some Jeffels as well. But now that they are a worldwide company, the column level lineage can look like that. This is also a real example. This is like the DAG of one column. So this is not about models. This is one column. I don't know if you can see anything, but I can't take any decision with that. Like I can't even count the number of upstream columns for the ones on the right. And this can be because you do like some, let's say, identity resolution between your different systems. Like you have a lot of logic. You want to calculate some revenue based on like ARR, but also like some services that you sell or whatever. But this is impossible to look at today, and I can't do anything with that. So what next? Then, again, I said I'm a geek, so I enjoy Venn diagrams as well. At the top, we have CLL, which is like the new shiny tool that has been released like for the past few months. On the left, we have my customer that I work with and who have like scaling issues, who have projects with like hundreds and thousands of models. And me, a geek who loves building things, and I just mentioned a few tools at the beginning, so why not an extra one? It's always fun. So yeah, today, I just want to show dbt-cll-evaluator. Thank you. I am a geek and not a marketing person, so let me know if there is anything that is better than this name. But let's talk a bit about like dbt-cll-evaluator and what we can do with that. First, let's admire this tool. Wow. Ooh. Anyway, that's just a CLI tool. Cool. So yeah, so the dbt-cll-evaluator is an open source CLI tool that I created, as I said. And what it does, it queries the discovery API in dbt cloud. That is where we calculate the column level lineage. And on top of that, we put some rules, and we put some actions maybe that we can take from those rules. It is really like the inspiration of it is really, I wanted dbt project evaluator, but not just at the model level, now at the column level as well, and going deeper into what we can look at, what we can automate in our day-to-day jobs as data practitioners. You will see many caveats in this presentation. This is not a tool for production. This is a tool today that uses some internal APIs, so it works today, but there is no guarantee from anyone, including me, that it will work tomorrow or next week or next month. So if you want to use it also, like I'll show you how you can use it, but use it today because tomorrow it might not work anymore already. But yeah, many caveats around the tool, but at least there is still some useful thing we could get from it. So with what we talked about on dbt project evaluator, it's all based around the rules and what are the rules we want to put in place in our modeling and that we want to enforce. I started with just a few rules in dbt-cll-evaluator. The first one, column renames. So now we can check if some columns are actually renamed in models that are not staging models. We've always been recommended to only rename your column in staging, but now we can actually check using CLL if it's done outside of those staging models. One of the other things I wanted to look at is the number of dependencies. It is just, in the end, looking at how many upstream column and downstream column there is for each column. So now we have, like, in a way, this DAG of columns. This is a way, if you see like a column that has many upstream columns, it means like likely there is a very complicated logic in it, and likely there is like many case when, many joins and everything. So this might be a great candidate for like unit testing. For example, you might want to put some unit testing on, especially on this column, because this is very complex business logic in there. On the opposite side, if there is a column that has many downstream dependencies, this is a critical column, and you might want to put many data tests on it. You don't want any wrong data to flow down, because it might break dozens and dozens of models. So that I wanted to get this metric about what are the kind of the key columns in my DAG. Another one is like the missing and mismatching documentation. We showed a bit before, if I just go back here, that currently Explorer, it was that far? Currently Explorer will show you the documentation from like some upstream column. That is great, but when we use, for example, the ability in dbt to push our documentation to our warehouse, like this documentation we show in Explorer is not going to be pushed to the warehouse because it is just living within dbt cloud. So this rule that I developed for the dbt-cll evaluator on the bottom left here is that there is the ability now to find columns which are just passed through, and if there is no description downstream, we can just like copy it from upstream. And this one says fixable because the tool allows you to actually update all your YAML file at once. You don't have to do anything, and it will update all your file. You just do a commit, and then you will have everything. Next time you run your transformation, it will push this documentation to your warehouse. And the last one is something that I've heard from quite a few customers. I think the name is horrible, configuration lineage. I don't know. I don't like it. What I want to mention about it is that with PII, so like personalizable, something like data you have to be careful with. If you tag it as PII, let's say in one model, today there is no way to make sure that everything downstream is tagged as PII. Well, with this tool now you can. So if you define that in my staging model I have like some email addresses, so I want to tag a column as PII, with this tool and with column level lineage, we can actually add the tag PII to every downstream column just at once, which can be pretty useful for really those use cases where you want to make sure that your PII columns are really tagged. You don't want people to get access to those. So this is also one ability we have now in the tool. When I said like the demo, this is not going to be a live demo because it doesn't look great to play with the CLI on some slides, but I'll just show you more or less what it looks like. Here, column dependencies. So for example, when I run the tool, it shows me that this column called like dim all learners from my project has a column called completed courses, and this column has 3 upstream columns, when other ones have 1 or 2. So this one might be a bit more complex than other ones. That might be one that I want to focus on. This one is, I think, pretty easy to understand, but it is the missing or the different description between upstream and downstream columns. So here, I've blurred it because it is from some real project, but we can see like the first line. There is some upstream column in my STG model that has some description, but there is no downstream description. With this tool now, you can actually push it down, and it's going to update all your YAML file for this information. This one is the configuration lineage that I said, like the tags PII. Here, like the line that is highlighted, we are saying that in my STG Jira file model, sorry, there is like a column which has some has PII tag, but there is some downstream column that doesn't have it. So when you run it with fix, what it does is it changes your YAML file and it adds this tag. So again, going back to the 50 versus 1,000 models, with 50 models, it doesn't matter. You're going to spend 30 seconds doing it. With 1,000 models, you would spend hours and you would likely miss some of them. So that's why we want some automation. That's why we want not to have to do it ourselves. And then it's like, what can we do from there? So I just put 4 different rules for now. And then I was just like thinking, what extra rules can we have in this tool? One of them that I wanted to put in place is column names reuse. Again, I'm not a marketing person. All these names are horrible. But the concept of it is, for example, if you have 2 columns called customer ID in your different models, can we make sure that they actually mean the same thing? And it's not like customer ID from actually Salesforce and customer ID from SAP. And actually, we use the same column names for things which are different. I think this would be a potentially quite useful feature to have. Another one is identify the same columns being used upstream to create another column. What does it mean? Well, maybe we are doing the same transformation many times in different models. Maybe we are using like the same kind of case-when logic or the same Coalesce logic in different models. And this is likely a bad idea. Like we don't want to have multiple times logic to perform the same thing, because that's where we get different results. Another one I was thinking of was like optimizing testing. So maybe if we want to optimize our testing, maybe we shouldn't test every single model, but if some columns are passed through and they are really tested upstream, maybe we just do a subset of the test downstream, maybe just unique, not null, but not the whole set of like accepted values and all these dbt expectation tests and whatever, just a subset. And then more ideas, like I don't know what else we can do with that. And as I mentioned at first, like there are caveats with this tool. Just checking the time. Cool. There are caveats with this tool. So I don't think this is a tool you can use in production. I don't think this is a tool that you want to put in your day-to-day pipelines. But I think this is a tool that can be used like to fix this, like as PII tag, for example, or that can give you an understanding of your transformation. But what I want especially is for the community, for everyone to start discussing about column-level lineage. I think it is so new that we never really talked about it. At dbt Labs, we are very opinionated on how we do transformation, but we've never been that opinionated about the column-level like transformation. Like we've never really talked about that. And I really just want to be a conversation starter. As I said also on the technical side, this is using some internal API, so this might break tomorrow. The way we calculate column-level lineage in dbt cloud is not like just like it's not synchronous. Like it takes a bit of time to do it, so you can't run this tool in CI/CD. So again, don't run this tool in CI/CD. Don't run this tool in prod, but use it if you want, just like locally and everything. And what's next? So try it. Like I just put like the repo public this morning. So if you go to this address, you can go to the dbt-cll-evaluator. I think we can change the name of a repo. So as you said, like if there is a better name for the tool, like let me know. And there is a few instructions on how to install it, how to use it. And on your side, like kind of my call to action is, yeah, like if you think this tool is useful, if you think that column-level lineage can help you in scaling your project, like raise some issues in the repo, raise some discussion in the repo, talk to me, talk to whoever. I think it's just like hoping to get some emulation coming out of it. Maybe we are going to get like some of those features that I showed in dbt Explorer in a few weeks, in a few months, if people think it's really useful. So yeah, that's just my call to action. Just think about it and let us know what you would like to see around column-level lineage. And that's it with me. That's it. Thank you. I think we have time for a few questions, but I don't know if there is a microphone or if there is any question anywhere. Yeah, OK, sorry. So I think, yeah, so like, the question is, if I plan to like track the transformation from source to destination for a given column, so yeah. Yeah, so I think today we can know what is the flow between, like in each column, in each model, like what is the flow, and we can know today if it's like, if there is some transformation applied, or if it's just like a select star or just a rename. I think that the team was looking at adding more information about what's going on when it's a transformation, what is actually this transformation. So this is not something that we have today, but maybe at some point in the API we'll be able to like get this information and really show like an end-to-end life cycle of all the transformation applied to a given column, for example.